Welcome to the This Week I'm Into podcast, and this week I'm into trivia and reflecting, Paul, because it is a special episode.
Why is it special, Hans?
Thanks for asking. I'm your co-host, Hans Tyler. I'm with my friend Paul Imbrugulio. And Paul, thanks for asking why it's so special. It's because we've been doing this podcast for half a year. This is the 6-month mark.
Pew, pew, pew.
Thank you for the celebration. And if you want to get technical, yeah, I know it's been like technically a little over half a year. All right, chill, all right? Okay? Everyone get out of the comments, or actually get in the comments.
Get in the comments and tell us how many episodes we've had.
Yeah, but anyway, it's been half a year, and we've certainly learned quite a bit, right? We've had now 26 different guests come on to talk about 26 different passions, which is quite a few, right? So I thought in this episode we could take a little time, reflect on what we've learned, and then to round it out, Paul, I got some fun trivia for you, because I want to see how much you've learned from the last 26 episodes.
Have I been paying attention?
Have you been paying attention, or have you just been filling it in?
Do a lot of phoning it in, but that's okay.
All right, Paul. Well, let's just start from the basics. I want to know what episode you think you've learned the most from. And actually, before you get there, Paul, can I just list off our episodes? I think that might be helpful.
You're going to list off all 26 episodes?
I can do it quick. Urbanism, Spikeball, Chess, D&D, Marathon Running, Cocktails, Youth Sports and Coaching, Escape Rooms, Streaming Wars, Board Games, Frisbees, Birds, Photography, Esports, Halloween, Casinos and Sports Betting, Professional Tennis, Hot Sauce, Amusement Parks, Cartoons and Nostalgia, Health and Wellness, Scuba Diving, Improv, Major League Baseball, True Crime, and The Bachelor.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you repeat it? Maybe a little slower.
Okay, now I think it's definitely unnecessary. Anyway, I digress. What episode do you think you've learned the most from, Paul?
That's a good question. And I think it's a little difficult, so I'll try to give you two answers. Mostly because some of our episodes, I would say, are more sport-based, or like a thing that doesn't have like I think they're less focused around like facts of an interest.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we have some more episodes that are more just like interest-based, where there's just like a lot of like interesting facts about them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
So I'll give you one of each, because I think it's hard to differentiate or like compare the two.
Mm-hmm.
I think one episode where I learned a lot about something that I didn't already know about. I think one thing that I have actually used since hearing about them was from our cocktails episode.
Ooh,
there was a point.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a point where I was asking Jacob, like, what are some kind of like go-to like ratios or mixes, and he was talking about like the ratio of God, I don't remember what they're called, but it was prohibition cocktails. Yeah, he was talking about prohibition cocktails, and it was how it was like like 1 part spirit and maybe like 2 parts citrus.
Yeah.
And like maybe a part sugar or like simple syrup or something like that. And I actually have used that. So then when I'm like looking up cocktail recipes that I was making recently, I was like thinking about that ratio. So I thought that was like a really fun, interesting fact, both like in terms of history of like the origin of it, but also like a very useful fact of like how applicable it is when you're like hosting and like making quick drinks, but you don't like know what goes together, but you have like a bunch of random stuff. Right? You're like making a Moscow Mule, you don't know the ratios, and you're just like, oh, I can kind of put in about this amount of these things. And it works.
Paul, that's brilliant you bring that up. That's no spoilers for later, but that was one of my trivia questions, so maybe we'll come back to it, but
hopefully I get it right.
Yes.
So I thought that was a good application and a fact. I don't really know which one that falls under, because I feel like it was both a interesting fact but also an application of something.
I also really remember a fact that really stuck out to me in that episode was how James Bond orders martinis wrong. Apparently shaken not stirred is the wrong way to do it. So
yeah.
No, I'm totally with you, Paul. Okay, so then on the flip side, what do you think you've learned from, in the sense of like less fact based but more passion based?
Gosh, this is tough because they're all pretty good. I think one that was pretty interesting, I think came from Kernan in photography.
Ooh,
I think
okay.
it was I think he had some interesting comments about like the ability to take your hobby in like a lot of different price points.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you can buy these like really expensive like Leica cameras. There's like these kind of mid-tier ones which are just as good, which he has, but then he was like, "Oh, you also just like have a great camera on you at all times in your phone."
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was pretty cool that he was like making it very accessible to everybody, like no matter the interest or like background you have in it. And
Right.
then kind of like the ability to, I think, like reflect and like take a moment instead of just like tapping a bunch of photos like you and I said we would do, but to like really try to like think about the photo he was taking, right? Like I feel like when he was
Yes.
describing that photo that he
Yes.
took of maybe the gas station, he was like, "Oh, I drove by this thing like a bunch of times." And then like one time he like stopped, took this really cool photo, right, and was able to share that with us. So I think that was like pretty cool.
I think there was huge takeaway there, Paul. I'm so with you. It's like take your time, set up a good photo, like focus on your setup, because then you'll get the one good photo instead of tapping 1,000 times and like hoping that one of your blurry photos turns out fine.
Yeah. And I think it was kind of on theme with the reflection
I agree.
idea.
Okay, Paul, way to go. Good reflection yourself. That was okay. I like that.
Okay, flipping it on you, Hans. What are yours?
I gotta just give a shout out to episode number 1, Urbanism with Tyler Labiak. He clearly knew tons about urbanism. Like someone who's been on that topic for probably many years. Like that's the level of knowledge he brought to that episode. And so I feel like I learned so much from him. Like that was one of those episodes where as a host you can kind of just take a step back a little bit and just let the guests really speak about what they want to speak about, and he was just rattling off like fact after fact, and I found that so interesting. I love the mixed zoning stuff. I have found that after we talked about that, I point out mixed zoning now anytime I see that. Anytime there's a shop apartment combo, I'm always like mixed zoning, let's go.
I live in one of those. Right below me is a bagel place. I actually what's really fun about that episode too, and this might just because I was also kind of interested in it before we started talking about it, but I have looked up a lot of the references that he made in the episode, and
Yep.
there's a lot of videos about Seattle. Even recently, I think maybe even one of the guys is from Seattle, so maybe that's why. But it's really fun to like learn about your local area. Like he just put out a video about the like transportation upgrades that they're making in the city. So I thought that was kind of cool because I both got to learn about the topic more, but also in the context of a city that I care about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the same vein how I always bring up Chicago or like almost every single episode.
Yeah.
It's great to learn about your own city. I'm totally with you there, Paul. Paul, I also wanted to know, out of all our episodes, which one have you gone into knowing the very least about? Like which one was almost brand new to you?
Man, that's tough. There's a lot of them because I think there's a lot where I could say like, oh, I understand what Ultimate Frisbee is about, but I don't like really know anything beyond like the surface level. I actually think that the one, and maybe we talk about this the most during the episode, is a recent one, True Crime.
Yes.
I think
Okay.
that was the one where I really like barely even understood what the premise was before we started doing our research into it.
Yep.
Even when we were talking about it, I was still kind of unclear what the mediums were. So it was, yeah, so it was good to have Kylie on to give us some more insight on that. But I think that one, and I think there's a lot of ones that we were also like, I know some things about this, like for example, the streaming wars, right? Like I know a lot about streaming services, right? So you know kind of like the general idea, but you learn a lot more context or like a lot more ways to fill out the picture, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely does make sense. And what's really funny, Paul, is I have like just written down these questions and a couple notes for myself too. So I just kind of remember where my head was at when I was coming up with these questions. And I have two topics written down, and that is true crime and ultimate frisbee. So I think we're completely on the same page. Um, I would go with true crime because I've never once dipped into that as a genre. So that was really interesting to hear Kylie's perspective. It's still sometimes gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
Yeah, I think we gathered that.
Yeah, but yes. But you know me, Paul, I love white-collar crime, so I feel like I could get into that one, actually. The other one was Ultimate Frisbee. Like, I'll be honest, Paul, I didn't really even know how Ultimate Frisbee was set up. Now I have a better idea of how it's set up. The only reason I'm choosing true crime over Ultimate Frisbee is because I have thrown a Frisbee before. So that was the only...
But you haven't committed a crime?
Allegedly, as far as we know.
Nothing convicted.
Yeah, to be determined here. But I think that's so funny. I think we're completely on the same page there. Okay, Paul, so then I'll kind of look at the flip side of that. Going into a podcast episode, which was one that you knew the most about, or which was one that you were most into at the time we were talking about it?
Gosh, that's a good question. There's definitely been a couple, and I think you can probably pick up on them. The way that I'm understanding this question is, Hans, is like, which one could I have been the host or been the guest for? Which one could I have been the guest for?
That's a super fair way to phrase it. Yep.
Yeah. I think that I probably could have been a guest on the esports one with Evan Pang. That's something that that's probably the hobby that I spend most of my time, my free time doing, is like video games or like watching competitive esports.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that's probably the one that I was most capable of covering. I think recently with The Bachelor too, I really get sucked in. I really get sucked into reality TV, and while I don't really watch The Bachelor, I think it's one that I have a lot of love for in terms of a topic. I wouldn't know the amount of detail that she knew, but it's one that I could have just talked about for long enough.
Yeah. Okay. I actually love that, Paul. And also talking about esports, I could definitely tell you were super knowledgeable about esports. And then afterwards too, I loved it because we were texting about, it was the World Championships at the time, right? And we were texting about the winning teams. And so I was like, yeah, that's definitely one that I think was pretty influential.
I know. I don't know if we ever put in the update, but whatever guesses that Evan and I had were really bad. It didn't work out that way.
No, but that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah. That's why I know I wouldn't be the guest on this casinos and sports betting one.
Yeah. I think for me, Paul, a couple ones that I was really into already was D&D, of course. I love D&D. I play D&D fairly often, so that was like a pretty easy one for me to jump into. I love running, so our marathon episode, I was one that I could probably be a guest of for like just talk about running in general. And then youth coaching. Youth coaching was such a fun episode. And, I've been a coach for almost the past 2 years, so I've something that I really appreciate and something I would love to, talk about more. So I think that was such a fun
really cool
episode.
to see your and Alex's perspectives like bounce off each other too. That was fun.
Yeah. I think that I had such a fun time with that episode. And I mean, admittedly, Alex is even more into the youth coaching world than I am. So I actually learned from him too. So I think, that was a really fun guest and fun episode. So Paul, in the past half year, have you picked up any hobbies? Have you got into anything new?
I will say, let me premise this with, there's only so many hours in the day, and as much as we like to learn about all these hobbies, you can only pick up a couple of them.
That's true.
So as much as I'd like to say that I followed up on all of these that we've done, I haven't.
Oh, dang it, Paul, you're not scuba diving on the weekend and then going from scuba to your ultimate frisbee team, and after your ultimate frisbee team, you're coaching your youth sports. And
yeah, but I feel like I try to take some nugget from a lot of the different episodes, right?
Yeah.
And, while I wouldn't like call them a hobby, I feel like I've learned a lot. Mm-hmm. So that's like, a base level of just like being able to talk about other people's hobbies is really nice.
Yeah.
When, you meet new people and you can talk about the things that they like. But in terms of things that I've continued, we kind of talked about earlier, I definitely do watch a lot of these urbanism videos now. Mm-hmm. I think my YouTube algorithm has kind of forced me into that, but I do find them interesting. So that's one that I definitely catch a lot of. I mentioned the cocktail bit into my life a good amount. Yeah, obviously esports. Sorry, I'm just running through our episodes right now. I'm trying to find one that I'm trying to find one that's like things that I wouldn't have already done. Because I think those things, I think a lot of the times it's just like I have a different perspective on things that I already do, right? So like the esports one, the cocktails one. Well, one that I'm going to start doing, well, not with Alex so far, but my dad coaches I don't know if it's a middle school or high school team in the area. And starting in February, well, starting in late February, this will probably have come out after I would have started. I'm going to start helping him coach that team. It would be like an assistant coach for him. So
very
kind
cool.
of fun.
Okay.
I know we mentioned in that episode too that that's like something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So now that the season is starting up, I found a way to get into that. So I think that's one that I got to follow up on.
Yep. All right, we're gonna have to get an update from you afterwards too about how the youth sports
how that going. Goes.
Yeah, yeah. I really hope you enjoy it. I think that's such a good thing to get into. I was kind of also reflecting through this, Paul, and like, what have I really gotten into? I will say that
you lost your Lions bet.
I lost my Lions bet. Thank you, Paul. Also say that Tim has inspired me to try different hot sauces, and so that was episode 18, hot sauce with Tim Boyer, and I can kind of, I think, fairly say that I'm actually not a big hot sauce guy. So Tim told me that, like, he's like, don't do sriracha, but I like sriracha. All right, so sorry, Tim. Please forgive me. But
I think he said that they were all fine. It's just if you liked sriracha, you might like some other things.
I think I just need to continue to build up my tolerance because I'm not doing excellent with hot sauce. But the other thing that I wanted to say, we were talking about health and wellness, right? And we talked a lot about sleep and sleep hygiene. It's a new change I've made is instead of scrolling before bed, I've started reading, and I'm loving it. So
I can tell you're glowing.
Thank you. And I think a huge difference was I found a book that actually made me enjoy reading again. So I think if you're not a reader, I think that's the biggest thing you can do is find like something that's actually interesting. If you get into a book and it's not getting you, just put it down. Like, you don't have to feel obligated to finish a book. So I'm reading Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir right now. Excellent book. I'll give a shout out to it. So
I thought you were gonna say I need a book to help me fall asleep. So maybe it's one that you're not just looking for the next page. The other one, Hans, that I was thinking about as you were talking is the board game one.
Oh yeah.
I haven't like gotten any new board games, but I've definitely been playing a bunch more. We recently just tried Wingspan for the first time, and I'm not normally a fan of those like really elaborate ones.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I was staunchly against Catan, maybe even in that episode, but this one was pretty fun. And I'll tell you, one, because it had a lot of bird facts in it, which actually was funny with the birds episode, but I don't know if you've ever played Wingspan, Hans, but they have a little dice tower as part of it where you like roll these like dice in to get a resource, and it's such a fun activity. You know, it's just awesome. Like it's just like, have you ever played Mousetrap? It just kind of reminded me of Mousetrap.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's fun. All right, Paul, just to kind of wrap up our reflection here, I guess, like, I'll open the floor if you have any thoughts so far, and then what kind of hobbies or passions do you want to see in future episodes?
Wow. That's great. I'm trying, man, what do I want to see? I think I'd like to see a food one, like another food one.
Ooh, okay.
Kind of like hot sauce.
Yeah.
I think that could be pretty cool if we have anyone that's like a chef or something. I'd like to, learn the ins and outs of the restaurant. I watch a lot of videos on that online. Probably, if I'm not watching shows about the news or video games, it's probably about food. What else? I don't know. I think something like techie would be kind of cool.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
I have a bunch of friends that, like, growing up, like, were really into computers. We're kind of like building servers and stuff. Never really made any sense to me. Like, for example, like one of my buddies just sent me this like server that he runs, and it like can download videos from the internet that you want to watch, and then you can pull it onto your phone. Not illegal. Maybe it's illegal. Not really sure.
Let's not advocate anything illegal on the podcast.
Well, I don't know. It's unclear to me.
Okay.
But it's just like, I just think it's cool, like, that they're able to, like, I think there's a bunch of like technical stuff with electronics that's kind of cool.
I think that's a great pick too, Paul. All right, so food and tech. Here's the call for action right now. If you are into food and tech, email us at thisweekiminto@gmail.com. Paul, a couple ideas I had was before this podcast even existed, when it was just a sparkle in my eye, right? I was obviously a serial hobby jumper, right? Which we both were, right? Inspiration for this podcast. So one that I was really into was watches. So I got really into watches. I was watching tons of YouTube videos about watches. I would love if an expert on watches could come in and kind of explain like the different kinds of watches, the watches around the world, like what makes a luxury watch a luxury watch. I think that would be very interesting to hear about. A couple other things I was thinking was national parks. I grew up doing a lot of camping, backpacking, seeing the sights. I would love a national parks episode. I think if someone's been around the States going visiting national parks, I think that could provide some pretty interesting perspectives. And then kind of along that, the last one I was kind of thinking was travel. Like I love travel so much. That's always my goal is to like just travel as much as possible, really. Like I really love just seeing different things and seeing different parts of the world. So if someone was like really into travel and like knew a lot about traveling, I'd probably want to dive into that a little bit. So that's my little plug. If you or anyone you know is into any of those hobbies that me or Paul mentioned, give us a
or
reach.
any other ones,
or literally any other ones. Yeah,
because I'm sure there's a bunch of things, and I think that like the point being, right, is like a lot of the things that I found pretty cool are things that I didn't know were hobbies.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Like Tyler's, like I couldn't have told you much about it before.
Yeah.
He came on. So
speaking of that, Paul, I think that's a great segue. I got some trivia for you. Let's see if you've been paying attention.
Oh no.
Let's say, Paul, I'll give you a cutoff of 70%. All right, a C. If you get a C or better, you win.
What do I win, Hans? What's my prize?
To be determined. I've not come up with what you win yet, but you win. Okay. If you get below 70, then we got to do some remediation, and
I'll go listen back to every episode.
That's right. Okay. All right. Ready for it, Paul? In episode 1, Urbanism, with our guest Tyler Labiak, we learned that there is one city that does not have zoning laws. What was that city?
Houston, Texas.
Brilliance, Paul. Ding, ding, ding. All right.
Bow, bow, bow. I gotta win.
1 for freaking 1. All right. You should feel confident, brother.
I am pretty confident. If you want, we could go into the editing of the episodes, and I do a little little fun fact about Paul's editing process. Which, if you know how to edit audio, please let me know. It's hard. And I don't know what I'm doing.
Action. Okay.
But I do listen to every episode about 3 times. So
these should be locked in.
You'd think they would be locked in.
Okay.
Please help me.
Hey, you're good so far. All right, Paul. In episode 3, Dungeons and Dragons, with Weber Chang, our guest described a time his player used the spell Conjure Woodland Creatures. Paul, what did the player use that spell for?
God, I'm going to be really good at this. He was dropping them on people's heads for max damage.
That is correct, but what was he dropping?
A cow.
Cow, yes. Almost like a cartoon anvil.
I was just thinking about that, actually. Like that specific scenario recently. And I was thinking, like, how high would your cow reach terminal velocity? That's what I was thinking about, right? Because if you dropped a cow at 50 feet, would it really do more damage than a cow at 100 feet or 1,000 feet? At some point, I think it's doing max damage. It's like when you throw a penny off the Empire State Building. I don't think it really could bury a hole in your head if it hits someone on the ground. Don't do that. But I do think about it because they tell you not to throw things off of it.
That's true. I don't know. I assume the max velocity of a cow is, the same as a penny or a human, but just from what height do you need to drop it for it to reach that max velocity? You're asking the real questions here, all right? Maybe we'll have a physicist on.
According to Google, thank you, Gemini, a cow would have to fall approximately 1,500 feet to reach terminal velocity, which is similar to a human.
Okay.
because it's probably pretty similar depending, more or less on the shape and air or whatever.
Wow. Okay, that's brilliant. I bet that's a sentence.
So you
that's
wouldn't.
Not
So
been
it actually
stated
higher is
before.
better. In terms of the D&D range, higher is better.
Yep. All right, Paul, I got a softball for you. And I know it's a softball because you've already stated it. In episode 5, Cocktails, with our guest Jacob Lum, he describes that every cocktail is comprised of 3 main ingredients. Paul, what are those 3 ingredients?
You're talking about Prohibition cocktails, Hans? Yes! It was the liquor, the citrus, and the sugar.
Very nicely done, Paul. Yep, that is exactly correct. You gotta have a spirit, some kind of alcohol. You gotta have a sugar, usually a simple syrup. You gotta have a citrus, whether that's lemon juice, lime juice, any other kind. So, Paul, really well done. You are 3 for 3. I think I should have made these harder.
I know, you probably should have.
Dang, okay. All right, Paul. In episode 9, Escape Rooms, with our guest Noah Brandini, we learned that if you're having trouble solving a puzzle in the room, you can call out for help. What was the alias given to the person talking over the speaker who gives you clues?
Oh, it was something religious. Like, God, please help us.
Yes.
Was there something more specific?
A little more specific? I would give you half credit on that. Because you are pretty dang close.
Lord and Savior? I don't know. It was definitely something religious.
All right, Paul, I'll help you out here. If you needed help, you could call out to the voice of God.
Oh, come on. That's God. I'm taking full credit on that.
Okay, I'll give you 70% credit on that.
Oh, come on.
We can bargain. God. We can bargain. Okay, all right. Fine. I'll give it to you. I won't be too stingy.
It's his voice.
All right, Paul. We'll say 4 for 4.
Definitely 4 for 4. That's absolutely...
Okay, I won't be a stingy teacher here. Episode 12, Streaming Wars, with Sean Epstein. We learned about Quibi and how Quibi failed. In it, we learned about a handful of different Quibi series that did not make it to the big time, right? So I'm gonna give you the description of a Quibi series, and you tell me what that series title was. 2 lovebirds, 1 awful accident. Heather offers Dave a helping hand. Too bad she may never see that hand again.
Hans, if I recall, that episode or that series is a series with Rachel Brosnahan, and it is called The Golden Glove? Golden Gauntlet? It's something like that. It's something golden.
You're so close. Okay,
it's definitely something golden.
I'll give it to you, Paul. It's called The Golden Arm. You're so close. Hand versus arm, right there. All right, do you want half credit for that one, Paul?
I'll take half credit for that one.
Okay.
But hey, the Rachel Brosnahan thing should give me some extra credit.
Okay, fine, extra credit. You're. I would say, what are we at? 5 out of 5?
We can do 4.5.
4.5.
I'll take half credit on that one.
Okay. My next 2 episodes, trivia questions, you have already mentioned so far, so I think you're gonna do fine with these. So I'll rattle them off quick. In episode 14, Film Photography, with Kern Fritsch, our guest describes a camera brand that is top of the line, whose lenses have the best glass, and whose brand is represented by a big red dot. What is that brand?
Hans, I don't know if I got to mention this in the episode, or if I found out. It was one of those things where you find out after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
The brand is called Leica, because
That's
I
correct.
like Leica.
Yeah,
but
Leica.
The reason that I remember that is as soon as we filmed that episode and we learned about Leicas, at work, I was doing some stuff with precision lasers, and the brand was Leica. And I thought that was so cool that they were doing I got to use a Leica product, and they were very impressive. I could see why they're high end.
Okay, there you go. It's funny because we talk about these things, and then I feel like when I'm out in the world, I just notice them more and more. So
yeah, I sent Hans recently a magazine that had John Benet Ramsey in a true crime magazine.
That's right.
It's I've probably looked at this thing a billion times at the checkout at the grocery store, but now I know what it is.
Okay, Paul, I was going to ask you about what team I put a $10 Super Bowl bet on, but you've already mentioned it, so I'm going to make it harder. Okay?
Don't ask me who they played.
That's okay. I'm going to ask you, Paul. During our casinos and sports betting episode 16 with Nate Rusk, I told you about the biggest bet I've ever won. This bet was on the German Bundesliga last year, and I bet on who the outright winner was. What team was that?
Oh, That's tough because it's not Munich.
That's correct. It's
Bayern
not Munich.
Leverkusen.
Hey, wow, Paul, that is super impressive. Okay, I made that intentionally really hard. Like I'm really impressed.
Thank you. You know what? It's because I started saying it and like the word clicked into my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was funny because their name sounds like koozie.
Okay, so word association helped you remember is what I'm getting.
Yeah. You want to know a fun word association that I always make?
Mm-hmm.
I was in camp one day and we were playing spoons.
Okay.
And someone was obsessed with trying to play pigs at the same time. You know the pigs, like little throwing pigs? So in my mind, the word spoon and the word pigs will always be connected. Don't know why. Doesn't really make a lot of sense, but there you go. Word association. Paul's fun fact.
Paul's fun fact. All right, Paul. Episode 17, Professional Tennis with Ben Stein. Our guest let us know that the U.S. Open has a special drink. What was the name of that special drink?
The honey deuce.
Very well done. Very well done. Okay, bonus points. Wimbledon also has a special drink. What was the name of that drink?
They have a special drink? I thought their thing was the food.
They do have the food. What was the food?
Well, the strawberries and cream.
Okay, very nice.
Hans is obsessed with that.
Now, what was the special
They have a special
drink?
drink?
That's right.
Oh, it's with coffee. No, that's Australia. That's Lavaz or something. That's so tough. Man, I don't know.
Do you want to know, Paul?
Now I want to know.
Okay, the special drink is Pimm's. It was a Pimm's cup. The
I don't know
Pimm's
what
cup.
Pimm's is.
Okay, it was kind of mentioned in passing, so I don't blame you for that one.
That's okay.
I lost track of your score, by the way, but you're doing pretty well.
I'm however many -1 if we count the Pimm's one. Maybe
Yes,
-1.5 for
Yeah.
Rachel Brosnahan.
All right, Paul, episode 19, Amusement Parks with Alex Ruby. Our guest let us know that Universal has a ride that has something she had never seen before. What was the name of that ride?
It was a Harry Potter ride.
That's correct.
It was the Hagrid ride, I believe.
That's correct.
And if you haven't been spoiled already, you should go look up the video because it is kind of cool. But it wasn't the jump that I thought it was.
All right, here's a tough one, Paul. Episode 21, Health and Wellness with Zach Griffith. Our guest taught us about the Wim Hof method, which was utilized by this person to manage his stress. Who was that person and what did he do?
What?
The guy's
name is not Wim Hof.
He had he had a very particular nickname. And I'll say this was like probably 3 sentences in the podcast. So it's a really tough one.
Is this to do with the cold?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's not like the guy who like manifests warmth, but I feel like it's something about like slowing your breathing down and then you're like able to like withstand extreme temperatures, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow, Paul, I'm actually very impressed. Yeah, so the man's nickname is the Iceman, and he would swim under ice sheets. And so he would utilize that method, like you were talking about, to deal with extreme temperatures.
Yeah, that's crazy. I do remember what you're talking about though. That's tough.
All right, Paul, two more. I'm pretty sure you've already hit 70%, so I'm proud of you for that. You have been paying attention. In episode 24, Improv with David Johnson, let's just imagine that you and me are in an improv scene together. We're in the car together and driving through a fast food joint. I ask you, what do you want to eat, Dad? What improv technique did I just use to make an effective scene?
Oh, you grounded us in a relationship.
Very well done, Paul. Yep, the whole purpose to call you Dad at the end was to establish a relationship. That is completely correct. Well done. You should go on improv. You should be Second City, man.
No, wait, I'm memorizing all these things. I think that's the opposite.
Oh, you should go on Jeopardy then. Okay, last one for you, Paul. And I think you're going to be good at this one. Episode 26, The Bachelor with Hannah Clark. I was spitting out some fun facts, and I informed you that one of the most successful dating shows by measure of number of marriages is what?
90 Day Fiancé.
Very well done.
Ooh,
For bonus points, we also talked about one of the least successful dating shows. Which one was that?
It's how I describe you, Hans. Too hot to handle.
Thank you. Brilliant, Paul. You did so freaking well. Yeah, obviously you are paying attention. And I guess that means you win. I'm not sure what your prize is yet, but no remediation.
It's okay. I can't wait for Hans to post what he gets me on the Instagram. So if there isn't anything, you can remember that Hans didn't get me anything.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. Anyway, Paul, that's been a full freaking half year. Been super fun. Everyone, thank you for listening to the podcast. It's been really awesome. We've been reflecting, and I don't know. I only have good things to say. This has been such a fun time. Talking about jumping from hobby to hobby, not to get too meta, but this podcasting has become my new hobby, so I absolutely love it. But anyway,
yeah, we'll have to do a podcast episode about us making the podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. That might be super meta. Let's see how we can make that work. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with our usual guest with a new passion to talk about. So thanks for listening. We'll catch you then.
Bye, guys.
Hey everyone, Pete here. I just wanted to say huge thank you for all your support for the This Week I'm Into podcast. I think I can speak for me and Paul both when I say this experience has been incredibly personally rewarding, something we both enjoy doing so much. And the past half year has been absolutely wonderful with wonderful guests. We've learned so much, and I hope you really enjoyed this episode about reflecting on our experiences and what we learned, a little trivia about all those experiences as well. So again, I just want to say thank you so much. Without your ear, we would just be talking into a void, so your support really means so much to us. And let's keep this passion project going, something we enjoy doing so much, and the next half year is going to have even more episodes and some more wonderful guests, so we look forward to putting out more podcasts, and we look forward to your listenership. So thank you so much for the support, and we'll see you in the next episode.